What's going on, guys? Welcome to another Lifestyle of Eden podcast. I'm your host, Nick Tognietti, and today we have a good buddy, Chad Franco. Chad, thanks for joining me, bro.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, so Chad, just a little insight, with him, and then I want him to share a little bit because he's very fascinating to me just because he does all the things that number one I preach, but that I find the most passion with. And so, Chad and I, we both had the same business coach, great business coach, love her to death. But yeah, that's how we met. Did we meet Chad in 20? I mean, I know for sure, obviously, we knew each other through 25, but I don't know if we knew each other in 24. Did we?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we met at the first one of the first conferences, I think, is, one of Taylor's events is where we
Were,
met. I don't remember.
were
I,
you
I
at the
think that was
20?
24.
Yeah, were you at the October 24 in Dallas?
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, okay, then we must have met there. Yeah, so then it
Yeah.
wasn't until 2025 that we actually began to like communicate though,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would guess. And so yeah, Chad is also a coach, and I'll kind of let him explain his background with all that and whom he works with and everything else. But when it comes to the seven pillar framework, Chad is all about the grounding. He's all about, getting in the sun. He's all about eating clean, fresh foods. He's all about the stress reduction and community and, all of those things. So, Chad, give a little bit about what got you into this space. Now you're what, 45? What are you?
I wish I was only 45. Now
You're
49, bro. I'm gonna be 50
49, dude.
next year. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, come on. Yeah, so explain a little bit like how you got to this place. What made you kind of start, getting into the more natural components that you're into and kind of leading to where you are today.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Thanks again for inviting me on the show, man, to have this chat. Really appreciate it. And yeah, so my background is I started in the fitness industry in 2009. That was after many other, I call them lives that I had, right? I had been working out, lifting weights since I was 13 years old. My older brother got me into it and was just passionate about it ever since then. So
Yeah.
originally it started from a aesthetic standpoint. Hey, I want to build muscle. I was the little tiny skinny kid who, a hard gainer, if you will. So I was the opposite of most clients I help today who want to lose weight. I was trying to gain weight and get bigger for probably a decade, all of my teens.
Yeah.
So that's where I came from as far as my love for the barbell and working out and lifting weights, right? And then I went into the military out of high school. After I got out of the military, I fell back into my dad was a general contractor, so I worked in construction in the summers for him growing up. When I got out of the military, I fell back into the construction industry, worked in that industry for 14 years. And literally the whole time I was working in that industry, I remember just thinking to myself, I do not want to be in this industry for the rest of my life. I can't wait to get out of here. And I didn't realize it at the time. Looking back now in retrospect, it was just the environment and the atmosphere that it was, right? It's very rare to find somebody in that industry who's motivated about their health and well-being and healthy eating and just taking care of themselves. And so for that reason alone, I was like, I knew I wanted to get out of there. And so I started a personal growth journey basically in my 30s and started
Mhm.
asking questions to mentors and trying to figure out like what am I on this earth for, right? Like what are my gifts? What are my talents? What is my passion? And obviously everybody was like, "Bro, you're obviously your passion is fitness and health and well-being, like that's your jam." And so that's what eventually, motivated me to go down the path, started down the personal training route essentially and kind of fell into gym ownership. I took over ownership of some CrossFit gyms. I transitioned and evolved those over a couple years. Ended up selling one and turning one into more of a one-to-one coaching boutique facility that I ran for about another 14 years of that, over a decade I did of that, and then transitioned to online coaching in 2021 was when 2020 is when I started moving in this direction. And then 2021 fully transitioned online with the goal and intention to do what my wife and I are doing now, which is living abroad, right? Getting out of the rat race. I knew at that time I had been through several bouts of burnout, basically from, trying to just win the rat race, right? To make everything
Yeah.
happen in the busyness of the Western society and the chaos that is. And so, yeah, I wanted to get away from that and kind of live life on my terms and figure out how to find the success I was seeking business wise, but away from that busy chaos because I valued, just a more peaceful way of life. And that's the Cliff Note version of what brought us to where we are today. But my own journey as well, when I was experiencing my first bout of burnout, essentially as a gym owner, and it's probably 2013 or 14. So, we're talking a good 13 years ago now. That was my first experience with functional nutrition and functional, medicine before it was even a buzzword like it is now, right? Like everything's functional now, right? And it's a big, people know about it and people have heard about it, right? And
Yeah.
there's a lot of different avenues to it, as I'm sure we'll get into, right? And so that was my first experience to it. And basically, it was me just being like, you know what? I don't feel on. Like I was very self-aware by then. I had spent a lot of time focusing on nerding out on sleep and recovery and all the things already. And so I was just feeling like, man, something's off. Like I think I'm sleeping well. I eat clean food. I don't eat crap and processed foods and fast food. I work out. Like, what's going on? Let's get to the bottom of this. And that was what took me down the road of getting getting a genealogy report, working with a functional nutritionist and diving into what was going on, internally. And now looking back at that experience, a huge piece of it was literally just, you know, central nervous system being completely taxed. I was in a chronic state of stress. I was the guy I'd be at the gym all day long. I'd come home, open my laptop and do all the back end, what I call, business owner work until 10 or 11 at night and close my laptop and think I was just going to go to sleep, like, all right, it's bedtime, close the laptop, go to bed. And now I look at that and I'm like, bro, you had that all wrong. So
Yeah.
now that I've,
Well,
figured all of that out, it's been a huge game changer. Um, so yeah, that's what's brought us to where we are today.
dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we don't share too different of stories, except you were a hard gainer. I was not a hard gainer.
Yeah.
But other than that, the journey, brought us to very similar perspectives. Real quick, what military branch were you in?
Navy.
How many years you do?
I was in for 4. I went in to be a SEAL. Was in to do. That was my whole goal in life. I had a whole life plan planned out around special forces, and then getting out of that eventually, and getting into CIA or FBI, and all of those plans quickly shifted by me making some poor decisions when I was in SEAL training. I was 17 at the time, or 18 at the time. Wasn't even or I guess I was maybe, yeah, I was 18 and a half when the experience happened, I call it. But yeah, basically got popped for underage drinking. We were partying on the weekend and got busted, and ended up basically an example getting made out of myself, and got booted out of training, and the whole downward spiral, I call it, began then, which left me to pointed me in the direction of where I am now. So I can look back at it now and be like, well, obviously God didn't want me doing that, right? He had different plans for me. But then I was obviously very upset and angry about that for many years, trying to figure out, like, what the hell am I going to do with my life now? I had it all planned out, man.
I
So
hear
yeah,
that.
that was the branch I was in. But great experience, super stoked that I had the experience and went and did it. Still think about it often, of like, where would I be now? Would I even be alive right now? So
Do you you just said something that I was thinking about asking you, but do you believe in God? Do you have a relationship? I mean, if so,
oh,
like what's
absolutely, yeah.
your so are you a Christian, or like what's
Yep,
your
yeah, I'm Christian. Yep.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
My wife and
Awesome.
I are big believers.
Oh man, so we share that pretty strong. I mean, I think you
Absolutely.
may know this already or whatever. I mean, obviously we were in conferences together, but that's like where my business came from, was the lifestyle of the Garden of Eden,
Yep.
What were these pillars that God designed Adam and Eve to live in? Like they were
Right.
designed to have their feet touching the ground, and
Yeah.
to be in the sun and to eat certain things, and to kind of have to work, if you will, for your food, which is why, like, I'm a big believer of, like, I don't do intermittent fasting. I don't really agree with it, but it's not that I
Hmm.
don't agree with what it does to your body. I don't agree with the rigid mental names that we put on everything. So like I
Yeah.
just made a post today, like I do believe going 12 to 16 hours every day without eating is, one of the best things you can do for yourself, and so
Hmm.
like for myself, like I'll eat dinner, I don't know, 5:30 or 6. There's one or two nights a week where I'm like, oh, I'm a little hungry, so I'm gonna go get an organic rice cake with some nut butter, and it's like 8
Yeah.
o'clock at night, and I'll put that on. But generally, I believe in like eating dinner at like 5:30 or 6, and then
Yeah.
I wake up at 4:30. I'll study the word, pray, things like that, and then I'll work out and do my hit training. And then like I got back this morning and I ate breakfast at 9, you know. So
Hmm.
by that it's like, okay, not only is it 12 to 16 hours, that's like 15 hours, but you're doing a hard hit training in the midst of it. So like these were, I mean, you have to think about Adam and Eve. They were going to have to go catch their wild caught fish, slaughter
Yep.
their animals. They had a more plant forward focused diet in that regard. But even if it wasn't plant forward, it was still focused on like grass fed, grass
Yep.
finished meats, which God commanded in Genesis 1. So that's what I like. That's where my concepts really came from. And obviously, me and you really jive on that. But, you had talked about kind of the different functional routes and how there's a bunch of different routes in that. So, like, what do you believe with, well, number one, you're absolutely right. And there are certain, I won't name names here, but like there's certain quote unquote functional routes that you've gone down with
Hmm.
people that you've learned from or studied under, or at least whatever temporarily, that you were kind of like, hey, this isn't really my vibe. Like, this isn't really
Right.
this is not what I deem as functional. So, like, what do you look at when it comes to, because I agree. I think everybody uses the term functional, and I think 80% of them are not functional. If we go to the
Hmm.
definition of functional, functional means root cause, which means
Hmm.
there is no root cause that has to do with a supplement, a prescription, a peptide. Every root cause has to be based within the lifestyle first, and then use those things next if it's
Hmm.
necessary. But it has to be lifestyle. Like that's the whole point of root cause. And so,
Right.
like, what is your kind of perspective on those things? And then why don't you give people like a little insight into like your lifestyle? Like I know that now you're living in Nicaragua, and so,
Hmm.
like if you were to say, hey, no, like a daily basis as far as like when I wake up and then I go touch the beach with this, and touch the sand, and then this is kind of like what we eat on a regular basis. This is our workout. Like, why don't you give a little bit of insight into that framework, but first kind of give the insights on what is your passion as far as what you think real functional is that's going to bring real benefit to people.
Yeah, man. A lot to unpack there for sure. But I think obviously the biggest, most important and impactful thing that we are on the same page with is, of course, our Lord and Savior. Like that is the everything and all, right? That's what matters the most out of everything. And I like to oftentimes just simplify and tell people like the Bible is literally like the word that is your handbook for how to live life. It is literally the handbook of you just read it, it will tell you exactly what you should and should not do, right? And there is nothing in there about prescription medications, for the most
Yeah.
part, right? If we were to
Right.
just
Oh, right,
simplify
right.
that, right? But we are
Yeah.
it's like 100% on the same page with functional and what it means, right? And root cause and root itself being your lifestyle, the way you live, literally from the moment you wake up in the morning, how do you live life all day long until you lay your head down and go to sleep at night, right? Those
Yeah.
are the things that will literally heal you from the inside out. And it's so hard to get through in people's minds because of the overwhelming minutia, we can call it, right? Of just
Yeah.
information overload flying at everyone from every angle and direction of the latest trend, hack, biohack, peptide, supplement stack, all the things, right? And you and I are also on the same page with yes, those are great tools and they have a place. And they are very useful and can be very powerful and impactful to help people heal and get to the place they want to be. But, right, the big capital BUT, but we need your foundation and your lifestyle in place first, right?
Yeah.
Because it's going to always come back to that. Well, I tried the supplement stack. Well, I tried the peptide. Well, I tried the trendy challenger workout plan and it didn't work. And now I'm right back to where was before. Maybe it worked for a window of time, but now I'm back and I gained more weight. Well, yeah, because your lifestyle shit wasn't in order, right?
No,
Um, and
sure,
so
for
that's why it always comes back to that. And that was my biggest turnoff with some of the functional routes and education courses that I went through and experienced, right? Is kind of if I were to just simplify it and highlight it, there's kind of two avenues. There's your avenue, which I would call the correct, proper route, which is about real root cause and lifestyle. It's root cause and lifestyle based. And then there's more of a supplement protocol based, right? Where we're going to do extreme flushes, then extreme supplement protocols right out of the gate, right? And again, yeah, there might be a time and a place for that, but I personally, and I know you do as well, we always start with just addressing lifestyle first, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just as passionate about it as you are. And I think, well, I don't think I know for myself personally, I know it to be true and I know it to work best because of the clients who I've helped, right? Because of my own proven track record. Like I have clients who have been my clients for over a decade, right? And the significant amount of change we've made in their life and the long lasting results that we are now maintaining and just fine tuning a decade later is because they are following, the lifestyle root cause plans, right?
Mm.
Because that's what
Yeah.
they understand and have really adopted and have really been like, yep, this is the answer, right?
That's that's it, dude.
Yeah. So for myself personally, what does a day in the life look like?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
said earlier, we moved out here because truly I just made a post about this on my story this morning. Like one of the main reasons we moved out here was to essentially get away from the busy chaos of the Western world, right? Because we didn't want to have to pack up a car and go find nature, right? I wanted to wake up and be in it. And out here, I am. I wake up, I open my sliding glass doors, and literally the jungle's in the backyard. There's birds, there's monkeys, there's, you know, all of the things that the tropical nature brings. And it's like right
It's
there. I'm in it from the moment I open the door. And what that does for my nervous system is insane, right? I am a what some might call the, just like yourself, entrepreneurial A-type workaholic. I can get sucked into that workaholic vacuum in an instant, right? And every time we go back to the States, I feel it. I feel the vacuum pulling on me even when I'm not around like an environment of driven entrepreneurs, right? Just being there because everything feels busier and
yeah,
faster and
dude.
everyone's more stressed. You can just feel the stress radiating off of people. And, out here, it's funny because out here it's been a tricky double-edged sword. We've been out here about 16 months now. So almost a year and a half we've been out here now, with various trips back and forth to the States to visit family or handle business, whatever. But being out here this long, the tricky double-edged sword is now out here, it is so chill and calm. And when I'm also trying to still be a productive entrepreneur, it's oftentimes hard to get into that zone, right? So now I have the other side of the coin challenges now, right? Is staying focused and driven to get all the things done I need to get done for my business and to push my offers out and things like that, right? Because I don't have the, driven, fast-paced entrepreneurs out here to rub elbows with. Everybody's out here just chilling on vacation mode for the most part, right?
That right there is a really good point though,
Hmm.
is that so like me and Erica, we were just in Kentucky last weekend, which is a 6 hour drive from us because for ministry, I was officiating a friend's wedding and
Nice.
he's actually in my university and he works for Scooby, which is like under Jason Theobald,
Yeah.
he's a good buddy of mine. And so like me and Jason and a couple of these guys were out there. And dude, me and Jason, I think, sat down for like 4 hours and just were going at it, like in a good,
Nice.
just
Yeah.
talking. But we had left with such a grinding behavior and mentality because like we're there able to chime on each other. And then
Yeah.
we literally just got on a call 2 days ago because now we're gonna go build a certain thing together that we had. So I had actually told my wife, I said, I said, Erica, where we live, we're about an hour south of St. Louis. And then I had a place in Houston until 2 weeks ago, just gave that up. But we got this place here. And I said, we don't have anybody to like make me want to grind. Like my grind is
Hmm.
off of just self-motivation and discipline and things of that nature,
Yeah. Totally.
but I said, I feel like once every quarter, we should get a couple people that we know are like us, where it's like a me, a Jason, a Larry, whatever, where we say, hey, for one weekend, let's go choose a city. Let's meet up there. Us and our wives can all go. And then for like 3 days, how about every morning from like 8 to 1, we come together and work. The wives can go shop, can go lay by the pool, do what they want to do. But let's just really get that like fueling environment that we get around vibing with each other. And then at nighttime, we can all go out together, get some dinner and this, that, and the other. But do that like once a quarter. And they were, we were all talking about, we were like, dude, that's actually a really good idea. Because that's what we would get when we were at the conferences, right? For me
Yeah,
and you.
exactly.
Like we get that environment, but we need, I think, that recharging and refueling every once in a while. So I actually never thought about that in that perspective of like, yeah, no, it's chill, but it can be a poison to your business too if you don't learn how to
Hmm.
balance, right? So that's an
Yep.
interesting thought process.
Yeah, I never realized it would be a problem until, being out here and living it. And so it was pretty eye-opening and exactly what you just hit the nail on the head on exactly what I'm seeking as well. So we'll talk more about that. But
No,
every
we need to
quarter
talk offline.
with my
We need to
with my
discuss that.
wife, I'm like, you know what? Every quarter I've got to get out of here and I've got to go get to an event or get around my entrepreneur friends and I've got to get it close. What I learned and used to call it was you got to stay close to the fire, right? Like if you want to stay
Yeah, dude.
warm, you got to stay close to the fire. You get too far away from the fire, things will peter out. And I've had that happen. Like it's impacted my business, previously. And that was my first acknowledgement of it is like, all right, we like when we first moved out here, it's like it's easy to slip into like, hey, we're on vacation mode. I'll work a few hours a day and hang out with my wife and daughter the rest of the time. And
Yeah.
it's tough because we do live in an awesome place. And it's like, well, I do want to just go hang out with them all day long. However, I got things to do, so
I think that alone is really worthy of just highlighting for the audience too. It's like, it's so true. I mean, like last year, we had been doing just really, really well with business, really well. And then I got married in August last year. And so in August and September, moving out here where we are in Farmington, Missouri, it's just like way slower than like,
yeah,
we're not in like a city, and so it's a small, small town. It's a Hallmark town. Like the downtown is like this little street that like everybody does things on.
yeah,
And August and September went by and we had made the least that I've made in a very long time.
yeah,
And it's still more than, well, it's fine. It's not like, we were not paying the bills,
yeah,
but I just remember I went to by the end of the month and I'd look at the books and I'd be like, crap. I go, look, dude, we're like, this is crazy. And so then finally October last year, I just was like, you know what? Screw this. We're picking it back up. And we
yeah.
did. But it was something where it was like, I've got to find that balance. And it's hard to
Hmm.
find that balance. And so, like, even myself right now, like we just talked before we hit record on this today, I was like, man, I found myself back now in this serious micro speed day to
Hmm.
day grind. And I think I myself am trying to find that balance where it's like, okay, I need to have my boundaries that are appropriate to where like my morning time is my morning time. Evening, I need to be out of the office by 5 or 6, and really just like shut things down. But within the micro, I need to number one, enjoy what I'm doing. And number two, really be grinding it out moment to moment. But that whole balance is super tough. So like I share that struggle with you as I probably think most
Hmm.
people do, whether they want to admit it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Dynamic balance. That's what I call it, right? It's always moving and changing, right? Like balance doesn't really exist if we want to truly succeed and have optimal results at anything. It's going to require more focus. So it just shifts and
100%.
adjusts, during various seasons. And that's what I've been trying to fine tune as well, which I think is something we're always trying to fine tune is that dynamic balance for the specific season of life, right?
Yeah,
Um,
balance not existing is so true. Like every season is imbalanced to either luxury in your family or to like heavy workload or what. So I agree with you. But real quick, like just continuing. So you wake up, you have the jungle, and then where does your kind of progression go?
Yeah, so my day from there, basically, I wake up, open up the doors, right? Hear the sounds of nature. That's step one. And then I go right into movement for myself, like blood flow and oxygen flow. So kind of, I call it like a little dynamic yoga flow that I've basically put together from various flows that I've either watched on YouTube or just it's kind of like a warm up basically. Like if I was going to warm up to work out, that's basically what I'm doing for a 5 to 10 minute flow on a yoga mat. Like that's the first thing I'm doing in the morning to get blood and oxygen flowing. And I just, for me, it's like it's been one of my non-negotiables for at least a decade, like moving my body through all the ranges of motion, right? And then after that is having some coffee. So while I'm flowing, my coffee's being made. And then I get out, I head down to the beach, and either depending on what the tide's doing, I either go surf or I'll go for a walk. So like this morning, took my coffee down, went to go, check the surf, and tide wasn't aligned with with what works for me to surf. I'm a very beginner, intermediate surfer. So there's a lot of pros and amazing surfers out here. It's a little surf community we live in. So, I look for specific things, but went for basically a 1 mile beach walk I'll do in the morning. So I'm immediately, in the sun, feet in the sand, grounding, if you will, and just out there. And then on my way back, I'll usually get in the water. So I'll get in the ocean, get salt water on my body. And that's basically how I start my day.
Well,
Um,
real quick, you just said something interesting. You said, you get the sun. So without, because I want you to keep going in this, but that kind of like assumes that you're waking up at like sunrise, or when do you
yeah.
go to sleep and when do you wake up? Because like I wake up at 4:30, which is obviously way before the sun, but
Yep.
I don't think it's ideal for everybody. And there's parts of me that wish I didn't have to do that. But just with my schedule and needing to do things before I get into work, whatever, I do that. So what does that look like for you about your sleep schedule and then when you wake up? Because circadian and light, like you're talking about, is
hmm
obviously a major pillar.
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, another nerdy reason that we love living closer to the equator, right, is you don't have big swings in sunrise and sunset. It's literally throughout an entire year, the swing of sunrise to sunset here might shift by like 10 minutes. So
Wow.
every day the sun is up somewhere between 5:30 and 6 a.m., which is when I wake. I usually wake between 5 and 5:30 a.m. And then every night the sun is setting between, 5:45 to 6:15 p.m. basically. So
Dude.
every single day is built around up when the sun is rising, down and down, winding down for the evening when the sun is setting. And so those are big things here, right? And that's funny that I'm glad that you brought that up too, because again, we just went back to the States to visit my wife's family out in Tennessee for the month of April. And it was so crazy because it's like the sun isn't coming up until almost, it was like 7:30, I think, in the morning. The sun wouldn't come
Yeah.
up till, and then the sun wasn't setting until like 8:30 at night. And it's like, dude, usually the sun has been down for 2.5 hours already at that point for us.
Oh,
And it
bro,
just,
we can't even like we have chickens we have a pretty big backyard, so we have a bunch of chickens
yeah,
that just kind of go in free range. But we let them free range during the day, and then we put them back where where we have them, and they're we have a whole build out thing for them. But they will naturally go in there when the sun goes down, so we don't even
yeah,
have like we can just go shut the door. But right now, like I get in bed at 8, and I hope to be
yeah.
passed out by 8:45. But the sun right now, as of the last several weeks, bro, it is still light out to like almost 9:30 here.
That's
And so
crazy.
so like last night, Erica goes, Erica was talking with Weston and our son and says, hey Nick, can you go put the chickens up? And thankfully the chickens just followed me because they thought I had food. But bro,
Hmm.
she told me this at 8 and it is still perfectly daylight out, bro.
Yeah,
So it's inconvenient. I don't like it.
absolutely. Yeah. Hey, another reason you got to move to Central America, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, but circadian is something I've nerd when again going resorting back to my statement earlier about when I first started working with my first functional coach, right? And I was started nerding out on my sleep and becoming very aware and educated around circadian rhythm and just the importance of, you know, ramping up in the morning for your day. I flow and moving my body in the morning and getting sunlight, going out for a walk, like all of those things have to happen for me in the morning or I'm just not the same person, literally. I can tell it in my
Dude.
ability to be present, my ability to focus, my ability to just, even my mood. Like I'm in a completely different mood if I don't get my morning movement in and my morning sunlight and walk of some form or fashion, right? Or some kind of movement, right? I got to move, I need to surf or walk or get something in, right? And then I can come work. And that honestly, as the A-type entrepreneur also, it is a challenge for my brain almost every single morning to be like, I have a long list of work today. I have a heavy workload day today. I
Yeah.
need to just make my coffee and go get in the office. I'll walk later. I'll surf later, right? And every single time I have to fight myself to be like, no, this is your time. You got to go get out in nature, go walk, go move your body because you'll be better for it. Right. And it works out every time. And every time I give in to the brain who's like, no, you got to go get work done. I'm less efficient, less productive. I'm more moody throughout the day, so it's such a huge, has such a huge impact on just my mental and emotional state as a
Yeah.
whole. So yeah, that's every day. That's starting the day, right? So typically I try to be here in my home office by 7 a.m. So usually between 7 to 7:30 a.m. I'm in my office working. So all of that's taking place between the hours of 5:30 to 7:30. So
So you wake up
essentially
at 5:30, you go to bed when?
I go to bed. We're lights out at 9 p.m. So I try to be in bed similar to you, like around 8:30. Dim lights in the house start at like, well, I mean the sun's down, but all the lights being dimmed and very dim home at 7:30 usually, and we're down regulating, basically giving our daughter bath time and getting things ready, and and attempting to down regulate her. She's 2.5, so down regulating a toddler is quite challenging,
Yeah.
but she gets it. She understands like the sun's down. It's time to get ready for bed. Like she understands when the sun goes down, it gets dark, and that means it's time for sleep, right? So yeah, so that's the morning routine, right? Couple hours basically in the morning of focusing on me and my connection to nature and earth, right? Getting sun on my skin. Very rarely, I put a shirt on for this podcast, but I'm very rarely in a shirt. I pretty much live life with no shoes, no shirt, and board shorts only. Another reason that we wanted to live out here. Again, more simplified things. And then after that, it's usually working for a 3 to 4 hour stretch with many, many, many breaks in between there. I've got maybe 30 to 60 minutes of focus in my squirrel brain before it's all over the place. So it's like get up, walk outside, get more sunlight, or just move around, do some squats, whatever I need to do to get work done. And then it's usually a lunch, like a midday snack break, a pre-workout meal. And then I'll go to either the gym or work out here at home in the midday. And then after that, it's coming back to work for usually another couple hours, depending on what the workload looks like for the day. Some afternoons are lighter than others, depending on what I have scheduled for the week. And then usually I try to be done with work by 4 p.m. That doesn't always happen for me. Sometimes it lingers towards 5 p.m., depending again on the schedule for the day, but that's usually my goal. And then it's more what I just call playtime, right? Hanging out with my daughter, going to the beach, and we're surfing or playing in the water or the pool or something, but spending time with her again outside because everything we do is basically outdoors here. And then it's down to the beach for sunset every night. Our routine is basically we go to the beach, and the community here that we live in, it's kind of the congregating spot, right? Everybody goes to the beach club in the beach area and watches sunset, right? Either you're out surfing for sunset or just hanging out on the beach watching the sunset.
That love that.
Again, as you know, the importance of that sunset and red light in your eyes helps also set your circadian rhythm and let your body know, body and brain, it's time for sleep. And that is huge as well. Like not when we don't have that, it's such a game changer and just how wired your brain stays, and all those things are easy for us, right? It's either a walk, a bike ride, or cruising in our golf cart for 2 minutes literally to get to the beach for us. So it's like we're not, it's not a big ordeal where we have to like pack up a bag, pack up the kid, pack up a car, drive through traffic, get stressed out before you go there, get stressed out driving in traffic to get home. It's like we're just in it. We live in it. We walk to it. And yeah, that's the day in the life. But
So
food is
what I was gonna say? What is give a breakdown for like your food type of stuff?
Yep. So I miss that morning piece. Breakfast is usually, before I start work, or I'll usually do like an hour of work. Similar to you, I'm on the 12 to 16 hours of what people would label as intermittent fasting. I just call it, I'm sleeping and moving my body and getting in nature. And then when it's
Yeah.
time to eat, it's time to
Yeah.
eat. But yeah, I eat breakfast usually around 8 to 8:30 is usually my breakfast time. And that's, everything we eat is home cooked and whole food. We do go out to eat to some restaurants here, but thankfully all the restaurants here also all made fresh, home, cooked there locally. That's because it's also really hard for people to get more what we can just call processed garbage out here. Like everything's fresh from the local farms that are right here in our backyards and fresh from
Yeah.
all the animals that are here, like the fish we're eating came off the boat yesterday. The beef we're eating was butchered yesterday. Like all the produce was picked yesterday. Like everything is fresh, So that's another reason for wanting to be out here and live in this type of environments to have easier access to all of that, right? But yeah, everything is whole food, cooked at home. It's, 3 square meals a day, if you will, plus snacks in between that are all whole food as well. So essentially I'm eating every few hours, 2 to 3 hours. It's eating something.
Are you eating like higher because like we talk about whole foods, so like the fish, like you're talking about, is gonna be wild caught, the beef is gonna be, pasture raised and grass fed and all of that type of
Yeah.
stuff. Do you eat more like animal protein on like heavier on that side, or are you like more plant based, or like what does your kind of routine look
Nope,
like with
more
that?
definitely animal protein. I'm a huge animal protein fan. So yeah, pretty much there's animal protein every single meal, right? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's eggs and bacon or eggs and some kind of sausage, or if we're not eating eggs for breakfast, it's some kind of beef, or we have actually access to a lot of lamb out here. So I'll have like ground lamb
Oh
as
yeah.
well, which I didn't really think I liked, but the amount we have it out here, it's maybe once a week.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing, and it's a great, addition and variety, as you know. Food variety is important too, to not just eat the same thing every single day. So, we do a lot of that, eat a lot of fish because there's literally a fishing village right next to us. So it's literally we got fresh fish all the time. Like I have my fish guy I contact on WhatsApp, and he brings literally the whole tuna over that he caught last night, and carves it up in my backyard. And it's like, so the fish
Oh,
is fresh as fresh could be, right?
if I could eat fish, I mean, Erica can't really stand it. If I'm not kidding you when I tell you, if I could eat wild caught fish for breakfast, lunch, and
Yeah,
some olive oil, like just really, really high end olive oil drizzled on, I would do it every meal. I'm not kidding.
yeah,
I love fish. I love it. It is one of my
yeah.
top priorities, bro. It's so good.
Me too, bro. Yeah, I remember this actually at the events we've been at together. When every time we go to sushi, right? Our mentor was a big sushi fan, which
Yeah,
thankfully we are too, right? I just always
yeah.
remember like loading up on so much raw fish. Yeah. So
Dude.
yeah, that's a big part of the diet, big staple. Raw fish, fresh fish. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of that, a lot of fresh produce, right? So I'm not, a lot of people are big salad people. I am not a big salad people person. And when a lot of times people are like, they deem me as the healthy guy, they're like, bro, you must eat salads all the time, right? I'm like, no, actually, I really don't like salads at all. I love fresh vegetables, and we'll have green beans and broccoli and cauliflower and carrots and, sautéed vegetables and stuff for our
Yeah.
sides with our animal protein, but I'm not one to sit down and gnaw on a salad for 15 to 20 minutes.
Sure, dude,
Yeah.
100%. No, I'm kind of similar to you. Like, um, I don't know, maybe it's not even do I really like the taste? I feel like I do, but I feel like my taste buds trick me into liking the things that I know make me feel good. You know what I
Oh
mean? Like
yeah.
if I feel good from that food, I'm not even kidding you when I tell you my palate confuses it and thinks that tastes really good. So when I tell people, oh, I'm craving that, they're
Yeah.
like,
What?
yeah, the
Yeah.
other night, bro. So like my wife's been, big into this stuff for over, I mean, her whole life. Like, but she's been a practitioner for over 10 years. And like,
Yeah.
she's of the notion, like I am like no vaccines for our kids, like natural
Hmm.
stuff, whole foods, like, all that good stuff, right? But don't get it twisted. Like there are times where Erica's like, I want a fat freaking bacon cheeseburger and
Yes,
and two
absolutely.
cup and two cupcakes. You know what I mean? She
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
wants that stuff, right? Here and there. Well, the other night she was sitting there saying like, "Man, I'm really craving stuff right now." And I go, "Me too." And she goes, "Well, what do you want?" And I go, "I really want those frozen bananas in the fridge with some almond butter." And she looks at me, she's like, "Nick, why?" And I go, "I don't know. That stuff just sounds really good to me." And she's
Yeah.
like, I want freaking nachos. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just because I know that if I think about those foods and how they make me feel, it makes me not want them.
Yep,
Being
totally.
feeling really good after a hit cardio and then a cold shower and then like a having like 6 eggs for breakfast with like some oatmeal and frozen berries, like I feel really good. And that
Yep.
that is like the biggest pride and joy that I have. But
Absolutely. We're on the same page with that as well, bro. I think more about how will this food make me feel and perform more than
yeah.
I think about how's it going to taste in the moment, right?
Are you big on salt? Like, do you do a lot of salt?
Absolutely. Yeah. We are salt fanatics in our house. We salt everything from our
Dude,
water. I even put salt in my coffee, bro. I salt it all.
Erica started doing that like 2 months ago, and she's like, Nick, you got to try it. It tastes so good.
Oh, it's
But
amazing.
but
Yeah.
and then she's the one that taught me actually to put salt on your oatmeal. I don't know if you've never done that, but bro,
Oh,
it's
no, I haven't tried
fire.
that. All
It
right.
is
That's next.
but no, yeah, I was gonna say I'm like really big on salt. I mean, I'll get like a pink Himalayan salt, and I'll get like three like big chunks of just drizzling it just on my eggs alone. Like, I mean, I am really big on salt for its benefits, but also just its flavor. It's a
Yep.
major electrolyte hydration. I think people really shy away from that, and meanwhile, I'm like the opposite. I'm like dump my food with salt, but I don't dump it with like the salt that's at the Mexican restaurant that you get with your chips or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
talking
Yeah.
high quality salt, but I do a lot of salt, like for real.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. All about the salt, man.
yeah, that's good, dude. What about like honey? Like, are you pretty big? We're really big on raw honey, but are you pretty big on honey
Yep.
or
Yep, absolutely. Daily. I have it daily. Yeah, we got a ton of that out here too. Raw honey that's just fresh from the local bee farms, right? So it's awesome to be able to get
yeah,
that fresh and unfiltered. Like, give me the
yeah, dude.
dirtiest honey you got, bro. I want
Exactly.
that stuff. I don't want to see through it.
100%.
Yeah.
100.
Yeah.
What do you use? Like you said every day, like, is that because you put it in your coffee or you just eat it by the spoon or what do you
Yep.
do?
No, I put it in a smoothie. I'll usually have like a smoothie either pre or post workout every day. It's just fresh fruits and some protein and some nut butter. And I'll always put honey as my sweetener I use for that. Yep. Yeah.
What,
I use Truvani.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that
Yep.
do you do plant-based or animal-based?
I do plant-based with that. Whey, my body doesn't really love whey. My body doesn't love too much, so I keep that to a minimum. Butter, raw butter and grass-fed butter and ghee, I use all of that and put ghee in my coffee. But other than that, it's pretty
Put
much
tea
the
in your
only
coffee?
dairy.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, I'm a bulletproof coffee guy. I'm a bulletproof fan. So
Dude,
that's been
wow.
my jam for a while, a long time. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
ghee,
awesome.
MCT oil, salts, and I'll put a little dash of vanilla, like raw vanilla extract.
Dude, good for you. That's
Yeah.
awesome, man.
So that's my coffee mix. But
You
yeah,
know,
honey, the other amazing thing I was going to touch on this too with the lamb we were eating. This basically I'll fry some bacon in a pan and then cook the lamb in that bacon fat and drizzle that whole concoction with honey and cinnamon and salt. Bro, it's so amazing. One of the most
oh,
amazing dishes. Yeah.
bet it's fire. Yeah. Dude, that's awesome.
It's got seems like kind of a little Mediterranean vibe to it, you know, and it's like I would have never thought of putting honey on my meats like ground meat like that, but one day we just tried it and was like, dude, this is so fire. So yeah, super amazing. That with a bunch of sweet potatoes on the side. Mm, solid.
Yeah, that's good stuff, dude. There was two questions too that I wanted to ask you. The first one was you had mentioned like the nervous system dysregulation
Hmm.
thing, and like when I tell you, so like I have autism spectrum disorder, I have Asperger's.
Yeah.
So naturally, people with Asperger's, because we have a bigger amygdala in our brain, we're very fight or flight naturally, and
Hmm.
kind of always feel like you're running from the tiger and like you're always behind, and because the amygdala is responsible for fear and anxiety, so it's a healthy thing. It makes you fear when you need to fear and be on guard, but it's really overactive. So naturally, I fall more into that, and most of my clientele that I get, when I get to the real root of things, I go, "Hey, this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this is going on, but your nervous system's pretty dysregulated. Your sleep's, fragmented. You're not making time for your sleep. You always feel anxious. You've got bills. There's just a lot of things there, right? So like kind of go into that a little bit as far as like what you noticed with yourself and probably with others as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah, relative to nervous system specifically.
Yeah, with nervous system specifically, because that's like I feel like
Yeah.
that's such an underestimated thing. Like we still, here's the thing, cortisol is still like a major issue with people or with this
Hmm.
or with that, but it's like, hey, you'll notice at the root of why your cortisol is always secreting at such a hypervigilant level is because you do have this dysregulated nervous system, the
Yep.
environment that you're in, or the thought process, or the need for more, and then the need to keep up with that more. You know what I mean? So yeah, go into nervous system a little bit.
Yeah, man. I think that it's something that the longer I'm doing this, and working with clients and helping heal them basically is a big path I've basically been on for the last 3 years, I'd say, is more of what I've been focused on with clients is really teaching them the importance of healing first, right? And it's
Yeah.
because what you just said, they're coming to me with a dysregulated nervous system with no clue on what that even means. Complete unawareness of their nervous system as a whole, right? Like, what do you mean I've been living in chronic stress? What do you mean my nervous system is dysregulated? I'm just doing what everybody else is doing. I'm just living life the way that this culture and society has shown me that this is how we live life, right? And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've realized I have to teach people is like, just look around you, just take a step back for a moment and look around you at the amount of busy chaos going on.
Sure.
Everybody's nervous system is so upregulated and just chronically stressed. Then we have to get into, well, how long have you actually been living like that? How long has your nervous system been chronically stressed and overwhelmed and overstimulated? Because that's going to tell us a bigger story of how, for lack of a better term, jacked up things are on the inside and how much healing we need to do and calming of your nervous system we need to do. Right. And I think you and I are probably at a place where we can see that you can see that in someone's body language the second they walk into a room. Right. Like I can tell if somebody's amped up and wound up tight also because I've been there. I know what it feels like to be wound tight. I can feel myself getting there sometimes. Right. And so
100%,
it's
bro.
like, all right, I got to calm. And for me, what I've noticed, and it's the now simple act of teaching my clients the things we just mentioned, get out in nature, put your phone down, go for a walk, breathe, take a cold shower, get in the sauna, create some form of discomfort that your body needs to actually tap into and focus on so it can calm its nervous system. So it can be like, oh shit, I have to breathe right now to be able to stay alive. Cool. That's all your body can be focused on right now. Let's start with that, right? Let's start learning how to focus on down regulating so you can sleep and actually thinking about that, right? Versus doing what I used to do, close the laptop at 10:30 and then think I'm going to go jump in the shower and go to bed, right? Like, no, your brain's wired and stressed
Dude.
out. So yeah, just really starting by teaching people like here are the things that we need to look at and that you as an individual need to acknowledge about what it means to have a dysregulated nervous system. Just
Yeah.
because your culture and everybody around you is living this way doesn't mean that it's a good thing, right? Doesn't mean that it's quote unquote normal. We got to actually make some change there and calm your nervous system so your body can heal. And then it might work with you, after a while, but we first have to get it to heal or you're going to keep driving it lower and lower and deeper and doing more damage.
One of the struggles that because it goes with everything you just said. One of the struggles that I feel like I have really found the answer to, but when I say found, it just means, hey, I know it to be the answer, but I'm still learning how to apply it and actually allow
Yeah.
it to bear fruit in my life.
Yeah.
Because I pray a lot about this, where I'm like, okay, Lord, if there's a gift that you've given me and a business model and business message within the seven pillars and stuff that I believe is meant to touch the world, it's meant to grow. The business has to grow in order to do that. Lord, how do I balance that where I'm like, okay, I've got to grind, I've got to build this brand and business to what you want, but not get sucked in to where I'm in worry and stress and my nervous system's jacked up and I'm not sleeping and all of that.
Hmm.
And there's been two things that I feel like he's highlighted that I think are really the answer to that. And number one, back in 2024, when I was my business was, it just blew up. And was making just incredible money. But I think my downfall back then was my fear to hire.
Mm.
And so like to hire and delegate. Because
Hmm.
then it means you're not making as much money and like blah blah blah. Because like we look at that, but not realizing like you're that's going to be a bigger mistake, and that was a bigger mistake for me. Like I if I was
Yeah.
to go back and do it now or mentor others, I would have said, hey, grind up until X, and then okay, now we're hiring, and like period.
Hmm.
That's just the way it's going to be. The other thing too is the fear of spending money.
Hmm.
Spending money on what you need within the business. Like if you need to spend money to learn more about, functional frameworks and analyzing labs or different things like that, or business mentorships or marketing experts or whatever, it's like, I think those two are really critical because the more that I've spent money and the more that I've hired or delegated, like every time I've hired or anytime I give something to my business manager or VA or whatever, and it takes pressure off my plate, oh my gosh, that's like the best feeling in the world. Or whenever I finally just said, like, hey, I'm going to spend the 5 grand on whoever this is for marketing and hope that, things go right and this, that, and the other. The turmoil and stress is all the way up until until I spend it. But once I spend it, I feel way better. And I think we have like a
Hmm.
huge micromanagement problem, like a lot of people. Like you're stressed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're stressed because you have to micromanage everything rather than learning how to delegate that to somebody out of
Hmm.
fear that now you might make less money. But the thing is, will it allow what you're doing to become more efficient? And I think that if that's the case, then that's where we need to dive into. And if you're going to fail and you run out of money, then fail going forward. Like fail forward where it's like, we didn't make the money that we wanted, but I at least tried that. You know what I mean? And like we can
Yeah.
always go back to the old framework if we need to, but it's something I struggle with because I know or I genuinely believe that my message and what I do is meant to be worldwide and really to be huge. But learning how to delegate that and hire the right people rather than trying to figure everything out myself and stuff, that's a struggle I think I've always had and stuff. And I think that the more I've stepped into it, the more it's helped. And so I don't know if you align with any of that or whatever, but
100%, bro. My dad used to always say, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. Right. So it was that mindset was ingrained from childhood, of like, yeah, we don't delegate. If we want to get shit done right, we got to do it ourselves. And that's essentially what led me to my first bout of burnout, when I was owning a
yeah,
couple gyms, trying to do it all myself and wasn't delegating out all the things I should have been delegating. Right. And then, like you just mentioned, it's something I still struggle with. I still have to consciously make those decisions to be like, all right, like now I'm in the midst of just launching a new offer and a new brand and a new everything as well. And it's like, all right, I'm in grind mode to grind to get it to a place so that then I can start to delegate out the things I need to delegate, now going into it knowing better that like if I try to do this all myself, I'll run myself into the ground again, right? And I don't want to go there again. So,
yeah, bro.
yeah,
No,
absolutely.
absolutely. And then my last question is too, before we get running here, is, and if you don't want to answer this publicly, you don't have to. Are you, like you're about to be 50, and
Yep.
you look great. You're, all of those things, that
Thanks, bro. Take good care of my hair. I got a good hair products I use, bro.
you and I both got the same barber. But, do you, being where you're at with your age and with certain results that you may get or may not get, have you been like on TRT or do you find it necessary to go on that? Like for me, I am on TRT. I had gotten off couple different times, doubled my testosterone back to normal. And then a couple of years ago, went back on it when I was going through some of my health issues because I was like, hey, like right now, my autophagy and my insulin resistance is, not super good. So I'm not going to produce it well on my own. So I was like, I need it in this season. And
Yeah.
then I got off all my other medications, thyroid, everything. It's the only thing that I take. And I'm planning to get off of it as well. But in the season that I've been in, I've been like, hey, no, it's a necessary thing for me at this time. So has it been something that you've either gotten on or you are on, or you're like, hey, I've noticed this is not as optimal. I'm thinking about doing that, or where are you standing on that?
Yeah, great question. And no, don't mind answering that publicly. Nope, no TRT for me. Haven't gone down that road yet. And I say yet because it's something I'm 100% open to. I understand the value in it. Going back again to my story of when I first started going the functional route and first started diving into, getting lab work done and having that reviewed, working with my functional doc and functional nutritionist, I had super low T levels, right? And that's why I was feeling the way I was, like brain fog, no energy. I wasn't motivated to work out. I had never experienced that in my life, right? To be like, man, it's a grind for me to just get my ass to the gym. I don't even want to
Dude,
feel
100%.
like working out, And I was like, that's not normal. And so that's kind of where that started. I ended up getting my T levels back up just through supplementation and whole food protocol and shifting up my training. I took a big season. I was doing CrossFit at the time, so I stopped doing CrossFit and just started, bodybuilding style training to just let the nervous system calm and focus back on actual building muscle again instead of just, increasing my cardio capacity and fitness capacity, if you will. So
Yeah.
that was a huge shift for me, and my T numbers went back up, in the upper tiers, and I was feeling great again. Energy, everything came back online. It felt like, right?
It's
So,
just from that was just from getting your nutrition and exercise and all that kind of stuff, right?
yep, yep. Shifting up the way I was training, focusing on sleep. Sleep was a big predictor there too, because my sleep was jacked.
Sure.
My cortisol was out of whack and way too high all the time, chronically stressed. And so the combo of all of that brought those numbers back up. And then here recently, I'd say about a year ago, I was starting to feel that same way again, right? And I was like, I need to go, let's check out what's going on under the hood, right? And T levels were dipping again, right? And so I was like, well, let's step back and focus on again the root and the fundamentals. Like, what do I have going on? And it was a lot of stress induced stuff at the time, right? It was dealing with a bunch of financial stress and a lot of just shifting in my business plans and what I had going on. I was in the middle of trying to sell my last gym, which I had sold, and some transitions with business. So anyway, a lot of stress related things with that. And I almost went on TRT. The doc I was working with at the time was really pushing forward as well. He's like, your numbers they're good. They're in the, what we laugh about as the quote unquote normal range, but like you're obviously not feeling optimal and you want to feel optimal. So let's get those numbers in the optimal range, right? And here's what's going to
Yeah.
do it. But the honest truth with that is also we were about to come back out here, and it gets a little tricky with sometimes getting, needles and things in bottles out here. So you're not always guaranteed it's going to make it through customs out here. And so I was like, do I really want to risk this and get on it now and then get out, head back and not be able to get it out there, not be able to get it shipped out there? And so anyway, as of the late, I'm feeling much better. All the symptoms I was having are feeling much better, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Good.
much anticipating within the next couple year window, I will probably be getting on it just because I can kind of feel the roller coaster of it, if you will, right? Of kind of those things all coming and going and knowing that numbers aren't as optimal as they could be.
No, absolutely. No, that's good. That's cool. That's good to know. Yeah, I mean, it's awesome seeing that you've done what you've done and been able to develop the physique like you have and not being on it. I think that if I could go back and do it I mean, then again, I was in bodybuilding. My mistake wasn't bodybuilding, although there was a lot of mistakes in that. Uh, but my mistake was honestly starting things, before bodybuilding when I was in high school.
Mm,
We where we were at, like in Texas and Houston, for example, our rival school, Katy High School,
yeah,
they were top three, top five football schools in the nation. They won state every year in Texas. And like in Texas, like big public schools, 4A, 5A, 6. I mean, that's like, that's pretty,
yeah,
pretty, pretty serious. And so our district and especially my school was very big in steroids. Like I was 16,
really.
50. Oh yeah, I was a
Dang.
sophomore in high school, man, and people were like pushing things, and stuff. And so um doing things like that, I think early on were
Hmm.
not really good. And then obviously you kind of get on things for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. You don't know what you're doing. You're like, oh, I'm gonna
Yeah,
take it for a
totally.
week and get big. So you do
Yeah,
something for a week and then you're just jacking your body up, confusing your signals.
yeah.
And then, to be honest, because I wasn't doing blood work like that back then, I don't really
Hmm.
know what it did to me in that
Yeah.
regard. I wish I did, but that was 16 years ago, and
Yeah.
so nobody was really talking about that. And then the only thing I knew was whenever I was going through bodybuilding, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and so forth. But my advice to people would be like, if you can optimize the seven pillars and really do things with micronutrient dense dietary protocols and getting sun and your sleep and everything else, it would be to never touch anything.
Absolutely.
If you
Yeah.
could, that because honestly, you really won't need to if you really do things properly. I mean, I've doubled my testosterone twice. I mean, I remember it was like 150 like
Yeah.
6 years ago. I doubled it to 300 in 3 months, and then I doubled it again to 600 within 12
Nice.
months. And so that was just through, plant-based diet, really making sure that my cells weren't clogged with so much cholesterol and stuff. My inflammation was down. I was doing sprints and I was just doing things, but in that type of way and stuff. And so I would always advise people stay off as long as you can. And if your stuff is lower, like if you're like, oh, it's 400 right now, it's 300 right now, okay, there's probably a seven pillar framework root
Hmm.
cause issue that's hindering that. And before jumping on something like that and, kind of messing with things, let's try to optimize those things and get that thing up. And then let's give it 12 months. And if you really can't get that thing up in 12 months because lifestyle issues or whatever, then okay, we can consider that. But that would be my route and thing that I would just wish for everybody. So I'm glad to hear
Man.
that with
Yep. We're on the same page yet again, brother. Exactly it. And it's funny listening to a fellow coach also say the same things that I tell people. And it's when people hear what you just said, let's try this holistic root cause, natural, foundational route. And we're going to wait for a year and see what happens. All of that stuff right there, I feel like so many times just goes in one ear and out the other. Like, wait, when I went and talked to my doc, he was ready to write me a prescription right there
you.
without
Right.
addressing all of my lifestyle stuff, right? And therein lies the problem and the biggest part of our challenges and what we're doing, with what we're doing, because it can all be healed naturally and fundamentally through lifestyle, right? Through pillars and through the root cause. And it doesn't have to be just, well, just write me the prescription. Just give me tell me what dosages to take and let's bump these numbers up, in the next couple weeks. And because people want the quick fix, right? But to
Right.
those willing to trust a process, it's just so much healthier and better for you, right? And you can you
100%.
can you can be thriving for so much longer when you just understand what fundamentals and foundation needs to actually be in place. So,
Yeah. No, I agree 100%, man. Well, thank you, dude. I've really enjoyed this time with you. I think it's been a good conversation, bro.
yeah, brother, absolutely. Thanks again for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, for everybody out there, you'll be able to see Chad's information in the content section. You'll be able to get his Instagram, follow him up. He posts really good lifestyle content, just kind of daily practicalities and necessities and staples that I teach all the time, which is the reason why I wanted to have him on here with everything. So please stay tuned with that and stay tuned for our next episode. Thank you, everybody.